Facing justice, it's been a long time coming, but an alleged Khmer Rouge torturer is finally in the dock. Pragmatism or surrender, Karachi agrees to Sharia law in the northwest frontier province. The Taliban announces a ceasefire. And surgery over the internet, why you should watch what you click if you're squeamish. Hello and welcome, I'm Anna Corrin in Hong Kong. You're watching CNN Today. The sheer horror of genocide still difficult to comprehend. Cambodians are longing for justice for the slaughter of as many as a quarter of its population 30 years ago. The first trial is getting underway now for the man known as Duch, who was responsible for heading the Khmer Rouge's largest torture centre. Khmer Rouge victims have been waiting patiently outside the courtroom, and that's where journalist Kat Barton, news editor of the Phnom Penh Post, joins me now on the phone. Kat, thanks for joining us. Can you describe the scene for us, please?
Well, people have been waiting outside the court since early this morning, about 7 a.m., but now the courtroom itself is totally full. Huge number of Khmer Rouge survivors, many journalists, obviously, members of Cambodian civil society. And the court is actually now in progress. They are reading the charges against Duch. The accused, Duch himself, is in the courtroom, along with his Cambodian and his international lawyer. And as I say, the judges are just reading out the details of the case file now.
OK, we're just going to some live pictures which we can see on the screen now. But, Kat, tell us about this initial hearing. I mean, what can we expect to see today?
Today is a largely procedural hearing. We're not going to see testimony from Duch himself or from any witnesses yet. However, observers are saying that how the court deals with this initial hearing will set the tone for the trial to come. The mood in the courtroom itself, despite the fact that this is going to be only procedural, is one of great excitement. As the accused was walked out into the dock, a kind of ripple of excitement ran through the audience. Everyone is sitting there hoping to see or waiting for answers, although, as I say, they won't be coming from the accused himself yet today.
Yeah, and Kat, tell us, how did Duch react to that?
He seems very calm, actually. We've seen footage of him sitting. I don't know if you can see. He's the camera's on him now, and he is very calm.
Yeah, we can.
Showing no emotion on his face whatsoever. He hasn't reacted to the huge crowd that greeted him in the courtroom, and he seems very unmoved by the occasion. Very calm.
You mentioned that there was a great deal of excitement from the survivors and the victims, but tell me, has there been much noise within the court?
The court, there was obviously chatter before the accused was led out, but as Duch was led out, as I say, the kind of ripple of excitement ran through the court and everyone fell silent as the judges began reading out the charges. Obviously, I think people are anticipating seeing Duch speak. Sadly, that is not going to happen today, or certainly if it does happen, it will be very basic, just reading, his name, his address, and age, etc. But over the next few weeks, he obviously will be giving testimony, and I think that is really what all of the witnesses, the survivors, and everyone in the courtroom today is going to be holding on for.
Yeah, Kat, tell us, how many victims will be involved in this trial, and explain to us their role, because this is a little different, isn't it?
It is indeed. This is the first internationalized tribunal to allow victim participation through what is called their civil party scheme. So people, for example, survivors of the prison camp which Duch oversaw, can for the first time ever be involved in the tribunal, and they have a status akin to the prosecution, so they can bring evidence forward, they can question the accused, and there are a number of civil parties to this particular case. I believe including some of the survivors of the prison camp that Duch ran. And I have seen a couple of the survivors are in the audience today, not obviously going to be called as witnesses today, but here at the court following the trial as it unfolds now.
And Kat, have you had a chance to actually speak to those survivors? And if so, what did they say?
I haven't had a chance to speak to them today. They were spirited in, but I spoke to Van Nat, who is the painter whose depictions of Pol Pot actually saved his life while he was incarcerated at the prison camp Duch. And he told me yesterday that he has been waiting 30 years for this trial, and he is going to be watching every minute of it, and he is waiting impatiently to hear what the judges, what verdict the judges deliver on Duch in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, Kat, explain to us the importance of it, because there has been quite a lot of debate, 30 years since the fall of the Khmer Rouge, and finally people are being held to account only now. Some are saying there's a ridiculous amount of money that is being spent on this process that would be better used, to rebuild the country. Just tell us the significance of these trials.
Well, I think there is a lot of debate over it, because obviously this court has cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And in Cambodia, which is obviously a very poor country, there was some speculation as to whether this was the most productive way those millions could have been spent. But I think, as the court's co-prosecutor, Canadian Robert Petit, has told me previously, how can you teach your child that it's wrong to steal if you have mass murderers walking around free? And until this court became into existence, this was the case in Cambodia. Duch and the other accused were wandering around freely and had not been held accountable for the deaths of millions of their fellow countrymen. And I think the fact that finally that high-level impunity, that total lack of accountability is being brought to an end with this trial, I think that is a hugely, historically significant day for this country and for this population.
And Kat, how do people feel about the fact that only 5 former Khmer Rouge leaders are being brought to court? How do they feel about that, when we know that there are other leaders, other people who are involved, who are, as you say, walking the streets?
I think the general feeling among most Cambodians is that this is a beginning. This is a good start, and yet, these are certainly the figureheads, if you like, of the Khmer Rouge. But I think the mood is that more must be done. There are more leaders, they are walking freely, and it's not just the leaders. I think I've heard from many victims that they would like the court to spread its net a little wider and to go down the food chain and not just go for these high-ranking leaders, but actually, the person who killed my brother or who killed the 100 people in my village. Now, I think there is a real desire to see justice expand a little bit beyond just these symbolic 5. But obviously, there are further prosecutions on the table at the moment, but the court's Cambodian co-prosecutor is resisting that in a move that many have said smacks of government interference.
Well, Kat Barton, news editor of the Phnom Penh Post, you're at the courthouse there, the first trial for the Khmer Rouge leaders, former Khmer Rouge leaders. We appreciate the update. Many thanks. Well, more now on the background on the man known as Duch. It was one of the worst genocides of the 20th century, orchestrated by one man who would never be brought to justice. It was 1975. Pol Pot and his Khmer Rouge army had taken control of Cambodia. His vision to eradicate the past. Over the next 4 years, they wiped out 1/4 of the population, almost 2 million people tortured, executed and starved as a way to cleanse the nation. Cambodia's darkest chapter ended 3 decades ago when the Vietnamese drove them out in 1979. But it's only now that 5 of those responsible for this Holocaust are finally being held accountable.
Even though Pol Pot escaped justice by dying, a number of the really top leaders are the ones who are currently in custody.
Non Chia, Pol Pot's number 2, Khieu Samphan, the ideologist of the movement, Foreign Minister Ieng Sary and his wife Tirit, all aged in their 70s and 80s. But it's the first defendant with perhaps the most horrifying past. 66-year-old Commander Duch was Pol Pot's chief executioner. The one-time maths teacher Ran Tul Sleng, codenamed S21, a former school in the heart of Phnom Penh, which became the regime's torture chamber. By some accounts, 20,000 prisoners were led through the gates. Only a handful would survive. One of those is Chom Nay, who was tortured in this classroom. They put electricity through my ears, he said. I heard noise of a machine. I felt fire exploding out of my eyes. I was unconscious for a long time after that. Chom Mai wants justice but doubts he will ever receive it. My family, my wife, my child died. Nobody cared about them. Nobody cared for them. Photographer Nick Dunlop spent years trying to track down this mass murderer who'd simply disappeared.
You know, I'd been to Tulsa Lang and I'd seen the photographs of all the executed. And I remember thinking to myself, if there was one person that I could talk to who was willing to give an explanation, it would be Duch.
Then by chance on assignment in 1999, he came face to face with a man working as a teacher in a refugee camp on the Cambodian-Thai border.
The penny dropped immediately. I mean, he's a very striking-looking individual.
After several meetings, Dunlop finally confronted Duch, who'd become a born-again Christian.
He began this extraordinary confession. He said, I've done really terrible things in my life before. That many people who were killed were innocent of, what they were charged with.
Duch turned himself in, admitted his guilt, and has been behind bars since 1999, awaiting trial. He's been charged with war crimes and crimes against humanity. It's been a long road to justice. The UN-backed Genocide Tribunal has been plagued with years of delays, allegations of corruption, and a budget that has blown out to an estimated $170 million. But while the critics debate whether the money could be better spent rebuilding the impoverished nation, others believe Cambodia must deal with its dark secrets.
These trials are very important for establishing history, but for the people themselves, they want to know why. Why on earth did these people do this to their country and to their relatives?
That's as long as the regime's elderly leaders live long enough to face their day in court. Well, let's get some analysis now from Gregory Stanton, who we just saw in that background piece. He's a founder of the Cambodian Genocide Project, and he joins me now from Washington. Gregory, thank you for joining us. Now, as we just said, you founded the Cambodian Genocide Project in 1981, and today you're finally seeing results. Tell me, how do you feel?
I feel extremely fortunate to have lived long enough to finally see this fruit, to see these trials begin.
I mean, you've been pursuing justice for many years.
Yes, 28 years. But you know, for the Cambodians, it's the Cambodians who really have waited the longest and who I think feel this the most. This is for them. Both of my children.
Tell us the importance.
Pardon me?
Sorry, Gregory, go on.
Both of my children are Cambodian, and you know, that's another aspect of it for me that's very, very deep. For me, my Cambodian children are also a reason why this has been so important.
Well, exactly. Tell us the importance of the trial for the people of Cambodia. Give us a bit of an insight, please.
One of the biggest problems in restorative justice in a country is for people to get a sense that they understand why something happened, and to have a feeling that the leaders who planned these crimes are finally being brought to justice, that there is not impunity. So for the reasons of personal restoration, that is one of the main reasons this is important for Cambodia. But the other reason, and I already said this in the interview, the Khmer Rouge leaders are still denying that they actually did anything wrong. Khieu Samphan has actually written a book in which he claims that he didn't know anything about it. I mean, he was head of state. How could he not have known anything about it? And so you have denial. And one of the most important functions of international tribunals like this is to put an end to that kind of denial. We still have Holocaust deniers in spite of the Nuremberg trials. But of course, nobody pays much attention to them because of the trials. And I think this trial will have a similar effect in Cambodia.
Well, Gregory, we're just watching live coverage of the court proceedings as it takes place. We're going to actually cross across to it and listen to a translation. If you can just stay with us, because we'd like your analysis a little bit later on, but we might just tune in now to the courtroom in Phnom Penh.
Objection, together with the discussion on the substance of the case. The chamber agrees with the request by the defense in consideration of the particular nature of the preliminary objection. Accordingly, the only issue for determination is the admissibility of the preliminary objection that the defendant intends to raise. The chamber considers that the preliminary objection is admissible. This is about the preliminary objection that the trial chamber received during the set date on the acceptance of the preliminary objection, which has been filed by the defense of the accused. The preliminary objection on the statutory limitation. And while awaiting response from the trial chamber, there has been no other submission or response to that preliminary objection. Now the trial chamber would like to ask the relevant parties if any party wishes to make any suggestion or arguments to the contrary to the objection raised by the defense of the accused. Please, the co-prosecutors, please, the floor is yours. Your Honor, on behalf of the prosecution, I received the preliminary objection of the co-lawyers for the accused. Although the co-prosecutors have not responded a written submission, at this time the prosecution does not object on the arguments of the preliminary objection.
Okay, we've just been listening to one of the Cambodian judges and a member of the prosecution there in the first trial of former Khmer Rouge leader Duch. Might just bring back Gregory Stanton. Gregory, can you explain to us the court proceedings, because this is a mix of Cambodian and international law?
That's correct. Actually, the proceedings are proceeding under the law that has been enacted in Cambodia, so it's under the Cambodian law, but the Cambodian law is interpreted through wherever there are gaps and so forth, through international standards. And the court itself has a majority of Cambodian judges, but it also has a only slightly less sizable number of international judges. In order to reach any decisions by any of the chambers, the decision has to be reached by a majority of that chamber that includes votes by both the Cambodian and the international judges. So in other words, this is not a tribunal that can be paralyzed by one side or by the other, and it is a tribunal that will combine both accountability in Cambodian terms and also an attempt to adhere to really high international standards. And in fact, as you know, the UN has appointed the international judges. I was very much involved in the rulemaking.
Gregory, this court has also, I beg your pardon, I just wanted to say that this court has been plagued, though, with controversy. I mean, not only is there that problem of the Cambodian international law, that mix, but years of delay, allegations of corruption and a budget blowout. I mean, do you think that things will proceed quite smoothly now?
I can't promise anything will ever proceed perfectly or smoothly. I can tell you, having also drafted the UN resolutions that created the Rwandan Tribunal, that tribunal was far more difficult to get underway and far more costly. And it was a purely international tribunal. the truth is that anytime you have human institutions, they're going to be imperfect. Nuremberg itself was imperfect. The Soviet judges wanted to simply hang everybody. So you have a lot of these kinds of imperfections in any kind of international court, and this is not an exception. But what I think is very strongly is that the Cambodian judges and the international judges are going to render justice here, and it will be seen to be rendered, in spite of all this controversy.
Well, it certainly has been a long road to justice. They've been waiting 30 years, as you say. Gregory Stanton from the Cambodian Genocide Tribunal, we appreciate your analysis. Thanks so much.